Hi, this is Reg Athwal, and welcome back to our channel for another episode of Family Business Experts, where I get a chance to interview an expert, a global entrepreneur, somebody who can really give us some ideas, insights, words of wisdom that can help us at either a family level or business level, or ideally both. And today, I believe we've got someone who can do it on both areas of family and business. And we've got our good friend Rudy from the US. Well, I'd like to give you a formal introduction for all our viewers. Mr. Rudy is a dynamic facilitator of change. Most folks in the business talk about what to do, but this gentleman knows the why and how to. He gets results. It will take me 5 minutes to go through his entire bio, but I want to make sure I bring parts of it in the actual interview. All I can say is that he's got 35 years of experience and delivered 1,750 successful business projects for clients. Phenomenal. His clients typically outperform industry averages in top and bottom line performance by 3 to 5 times. He's hands-on. Rudy is one of the nation's leading authorities on culture creation, effective change, brand execution, and profitability. He's got endless credentials when it comes to books, over 700 articles on blogs being published, regularly on TV and lots of other areas, and the rest he'll have to tell us as we do this interview. So on that note, let's talk about purpose to profit and everything else that comes with it. Rudy, welcome. You look a lot younger now than you do in that picture that you gave me.
Thank you very much. I am humbled by that introduction, sir. Thank you very much. It's good to see you, Reg.
I don't know how you've done it. 35 years, 1,750 projects. Is there a particular project, Rudy, that stands out for you, that's special for you from all these experiences?
Oh gosh, there are certainly a small handful. One of the finest, I think, one of the things that stands out great for us, and especially I think ties to your folks, your client base, is an independent restaurant chain, actually in Chicago, in the Chicago area.
Yes.
Owned and started by a single entrepreneur, a guy named Miick Cirillo. And this guy started in the pizza business in the US, in Chicago, home of pizza, with not just some little corner stand, but a 9,000 square foot building that seats 350 people at any given meal period. And Miick literally took our work, put it in place, and began to be the pizza on purpose guy globally. And he's with 2 restaurants in the top 5 performing pizza brands in the United States.
Wow.
Right? I mean, just unbelievable volume. And he took, he created profit sharing for his staff, not just his managers, and not just bonuses, but literal profit sharing, open books, a defined set of purpose and values, and just literally took our work. We began as client and consultant, evolved to colleagues and buddies, and he's just amassed.
So what was that?
Just been a great story.
If I could come in,
Yeah.
Rudy, and I will every now and then, because there'll be things popping in my head as you're talking. So what was that one magical thing that you did for him that really ended up giving him the results? What's the Rudy special powder?
Well, I think the first piece was that, and what made Miick unique was he was the perfect student. He actually listened, and together we installed pieces. But so the pieces, what's in the recipe? The first piece, I think, is that culture, now talked about a lot with kind of as a buzzword.
That's right.
But culture equals brand. Culture is the brand experience. So the more definitive and the more on purpose we can be with our culture,
yes,
the brand experience then for guests, for staff, explodes in very positive ways. And the interesting piece to me is culture exists whether we work it consciously or not. The way we treat people, the way we talk, our tone of voice, the respect or not, etc., the discipline or not. That culture is the foundation of everything. And most times, most people, in my experience, think culture is just there. You can't do anything with it. On the other hand, we've gone, well, wait, we can shift culture intentionally. All we have to do is imagine and vision into the future. What is it we want? There's our existing. What am I happy with? I don't want to change. What's the strategy to put in place to support the culture? And most importantly, with all the strategic planning you and I do, 85 to 90% of that strat planning fails because the third component, which is structure, needs to change to support the strategy to move the culture. And Miick did that better than anybody, and that's really the foundation of the secret sauce.
What, in summary, I've done lots of episodes with great guests around the world who are cultural experts as well. Everyone's got a different spin on this.
Sure, of course.
In simple terms, for an entrepreneur, for a family business owner, what is culture? In the rawest, what is culture?
What a lovely question. I don't know that I've ever been asked that simply, right? The culture, to me, culture is the intrinsic way, the unconscious way we behave with each other. So I'm sure your audience will be aware of this. I'm sure you and I as well. I have my public face. I have my family face. How does my tone of voice, how does my word choice change between when I'm talking to a guest, when I'm talking to a family member or a team member, or maybe a board member, right? Those unconscious behaviors are in fact the culture. And then it goes back further to, well, what are the norms that my grandpa did, my great grandpa did, or grandma, our aunts, our uncles, right? So it's this historic avalanche that blows right into the here and now. And in my experience, so here's this thing we call culture that is completely habit. And I just need to ask the question, am I happy here? If I'm not, we actually have the skills to shift our behaviors simply by moving from unconscious to conscious. Okay. What do I want to keep from the Mideast? What do I want to keep from the West? What do I want to keep from the North, from the South? What do I want to let go?
Right in saying, Rudy, that's, you could be running on autopilot with your behavior.
Absolutely.
Not even aware of some of the things you could be doing with the people around you, like you said, whether it's with your family or whether it's in a boardroom, whether it's with your team. And you're trying to bring that, right in front of them to say, hey, this is you, but what's going on here? Look, I'm going to show you it. This is it.
Exactly.
And how they're consciously aware. Am I right? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, no, I think so. If we use, this may be an American, a US analogy, or certainly a Western analogy, but I think it would apply for the rest of the world. In the West, we often ask, well, why is it that if a couple, a male and a female, are driving in a car, why is it 90% of the time the man drives? Right? Well, guess what? At least in the United States, the man drives because 200 years ago, I had to have the male had the power to drive the horses or the oxen in the wagon, right? Well, guess what? Fast forward, my Maserati doesn't care if I am a male or a female, right? Same thing, pushing a computer keyboard. How dare we put women in the, excuse the pun, put the women in the back seat of driving good thinking and computer technology. They can drive a keyboard as well or better than a man. So just because 200 years ago I had the dominance of strength, now that strength's irrelevant. However, we still just get in the car and the man drives. It's like, no, that would be a cultural norm that we go, wake up. Right. Is that still necessary?
I understand. And over the years, I understand the reason why, Rudy, your organization, the Miick Corporation, your group company, has got this methodology. I believe there's 6 steps, that you take clients through. I'm curious to know more about the first one, because I think when I looked at the model, it seemed like everything else was hanging on this first one. You don't get this first one right, then the rest is not going to happen. So could you talk us through how you start with clients and why, knowing who you are, I think that's correct.
Sure.
Is base one, is step one.
You have, as usual, you've done your homework. No wonder you're as successful as you are. I appreciate it. So our 6 steps, what I noticed as a young consultant and evolving my company was, whether my clients or just world-class companies, I began to see 6 consistent steps, as you named, that were ingrained somewhere in every great company. So regardless concept, regardless of brand segment. So to your point, the first piece for us is know who we are. So what are the components there? For me, everything starts with passion. What am I passionate about? And the second that I have, not the second, but at the point in my life where I have enough age accumulated, I can begin to look back or see where those passion touch points have led me to a sense of purpose. So purpose is the foundation piece of what we're in business to do. And
how long does that take, Rudy, for entrepreneurs or owners or a leadership team? How long does it take to go through the process of discovering that? Because some people believe that you don't, if you have a deadline of 1 or 2 weeks or a project and go, right, you're suddenly going to find your purpose. Yeah, it could happen. In other cases, it takes people a lot of time to discover their purpose. They have to go through their own adventure and journey till you go, oh, now I know why I'm doing this.
Exactly.
What's happened with your experience with clients when it comes to working on that purpose bit?
Well, typically, so in the knowing who we are, this brings us back to the culture piece. So first and foremost is, if I've got an existing company, I want to ask, what am I excited about with this company? What if I could change anything, what would I change? If I want to shift, how do I make sure I keep those cultural pieces? Now, how do I do that on purpose? Currently, in the last 5 years or so, Simon Sinek and others call purpose why. To me, I love the term purpose because I'm working on purpose. I'm shifting my culture on purpose. My brand, everything I do is with intention. So that sense, the direct answer to your question, we typically take our clients through a 2.5-day retreat. We take a slice team of the company, or if it's still in the startup phase, the founders or the key board members, the key investors. Yes. And we'll go through a 2.5-day retreat that actually goes from, what is my passion? What is my vision? What do I see 20 years from now? Now what grounds me? What is that bigger reason? I want to make money. Money is the engine that keeps us performing, profitability. We've found that sense of purpose is the driver. An example of this, and tying this back to my story and your question about Nick's, is the restaurant industry, which is where I started my work, is a great example of this. in Latin to French, the word restaurant literally means a place one goes to be restored. And restaurateur literally translates to restorer of soul. So now purpose, yeah, isn't it? So now instead of I'm making a taco, or I'm making a pizza, or I'm making a hamburger, or whatever the food is that I might be making, a stew, I'm not just feeding your belly, I'm feeding the soul. How do I have you feel complete, satiated, not just belly, but my whole experience, mind, body, heart, soul? So now I bring that to my business, and oh, I've got a dishwasher or a host or a server. They look like a server, but they're actually a restorer of soul.
Rudy,
I
could you
look
have somebody, sorry to interrupt you, could you have somebody who's um, passionate, just passionate about making money, and hence that's why they built 50 companies already, and I've met some of these
Sure.
owners,
Me too.
and their passion is building companies and developing, going on to the next one. And purpose, if you have a conversation about purpose, they'll look at you with funny eyes and think there's something wrong with you.
Mhm.
Like, why, what are you talking about? Purpose, this is it, this is it, this is, why do I need to have this beautiful words and put it in a frame and put it in the boardroom and knowing what my purpose is? This is it. I remember one chairman said to me, my work is my worship.
Yes.
That's it.
So, and I would actually, we're in our work, what's been effective is let me join you there then. Now the question becomes, how do we make the most productive company, even if we know 3 years from now the exit strategy is sell, then the opportunity, or 5 year, whatever the timeline is, if that's the purpose, how do I drive the most money? How do I make it the best company that, oh, by the way, gets the most revenue? That can begin to be the question mark, because what we do know, and COVID globally has taught us this, is an inspired workforce is going to perform at a higher level than a fearful workforce, or somebody that's just performing, I got a job, I'm paying my bills, I can barely survive. That inspired worker is going to perform at a higher level than somebody that's there neutrally. Yeah. So now the question becomes, okay, I'm with you. We're going to drive excellence. Excellence is money for you, but to drive the most is not necessarily the most expensive equipment, but the most efficiently run. So how do we get there? Let's inspire team members to drive this. So
Rudy, everyone's on their own journey, aren't they? I mean, even though
absolutely.
I was challenging you there for a second, but I'm a firm believer in your work, and I know that the
Thank you.
best entrepreneurs and family owners that I've ever met, business owners, are the ones who do have purpose. They have this feeling of fulfillment with what they do. They know there's a deeper meaning to what they're doing, and for them, the next $100 million is not, that's just a scorecard for how well you've served your customers. But
Exactly.
really, it's about their lifestyle is manageable. They're not looking to buy another yacht. They have one already. For them, it's about what can they do to give back? What can they do to create more jobs, create more entrepreneurs in the future? So in a way, that's a purpose, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think, to your point, if we come back to that I'll call it a pure capitalist that just wants to drive the revenue and turn the company, what I find often is, to your point, with more revenue, I can do more good in the world, right? I create more jobs. I can give back in other ways. I can create a more educated workforce, and more education in the workforce is going to create a better neighborhood, a better community, a better nation state, a better province, whatever it might be. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The other thing I think that we touched on this a couple minutes ago about COVID. I think with this kind of awake culture, awake brand, purpose, brand on purpose. During COVID, what this process, the kind of companies you and I build and work with founders to build, is so potent because we're teaching owners how to actually use definitive values as a decision-making tool. So I would make the case profitability is a value, not the driver, not the purpose of the business, but it's a core value. So how do we be profitable? How do we also be an active part of our community? How do we communicate openly? Taking values and saying whatever the issue is, to get to a solution, let's not just scream and yell at each other. How do we actually take the values, take our purpose, take our vision, and based on those tools, create a decision that celebrates the purpose and values, keeps us in business, and all of a sudden, in the midst of something as chaotic as COVID, we're making fast decisions. The values actually are verbs, not nouns. They're not gathering dust on the wall. They're actually being used on a daily basis, and companies are thriving even in the midst of chaos. Right?
Can I ask
Positive.
you, Rudy, I think it's clear, thanks for sharing giving clarity on that culture piece, linked to some of the other things you've mentioned around purpose. You touched on chaos, and I want to hook on that word.
Sure.
When there is chaos, you've had a lot of experience in this with clients, especially in the restaurant business.
Yep.
When there is chaos, what's the best way of making decisions?
To me, what's really intriguing about chaos, and frankly about values, is we're going to find out what the real values of the organization are in chaos, right? And this is, again, where I think profitability, effective cash management is a value, not the driver of the company. And instead of values conflict, how do values engage and cohese to get to good decision making? Chaos is the perfect storm, I think, that ties, imagine I'm stretching a rubber band. Purpose grounds the stretch of the rubber band to the vision, the potential vision, even in chaos, right? There's functional tension as I'm stretching. The second I let go of my grounded purpose, the rubber band snaps, right?
Yeah.
If I stretch too far, the rubber band breaks. The values become the guideposts to keep us on course towards the vision, grounded by sense of purpose, guided by values. Chaos keeps us resonant, the functional tension. Whether it's a jet, whether it's a sailboat in a gale, whether it's us in the middle of a storm of business, that chaotic functional tension demands that we hunker down. We've got 20 minutes to make a decision. How do which values apply? So I'll stop there.
At what stage do you change the rubber band?
What's interesting, good question. God forbid if it snaps, right? So I don't want to pull it so far that it breaks. You're absolutely right. And preparedness would be, I've got a rubber band right behind it, right? So ready to go. So we have spare parts, but I don't have 20 cases of rubber bands. I don't need it. So I'm not going to spend the money on 80, keep my money in the bank, keep 2 or 3 rubber bands extra, but not 25,000. Okay, I'm not going to need them. So in all seriousness, what I just said as a metaphor actually is true. I want to pay attention to cash flow and inventory on hand. The reality is, if I've done my work correctly with the values, they will last 25 or 30 years, 50 years. If I've done purpose correctly, it'll last 200 years. Vision, I'm going to course correct every 3 years. You and I used to do vision statements for a decade or even 5 years. 5 years is so far out, who knows? 3-year vision, we'll complete in 2, even with COVID.
I get
I
it.
think.
Yeah, it's clear.
Yeah.
That's good,
Yeah.
Rudy. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Love the analogy there as well. So with COVID right now, where are the opportunities?
To me, the opportunity, wow, what a great question. What are now, maybe more than ever, what is it people need, right? So anything, I mean, look at us here on Zoom, right, as a connection, um, YouTube education, video. So we know we got to keep eating.
Yes.
We know that we need to somehow stay healthy. So fit, it's really not very effective to go to a gym. And if I do, I certainly want to be socially distanced and safe. So my sense is, it's a traditional business question, just with a new lens. What does the world need at this point? Food, tools, education, more online connection like this. But the biggest piece to me is come back to culture. How do we connect with each other? How do we hold both the I and the we? So that, because too much there's no funding, we all go broke, but too much I, and 6 people, 20 people get really rich, and the rest of us don't.
Well, we're seeing that in
And we
India
don't
right now,
survive.
isn't there? There's already
100%.
there's a huge
Right.
gap, and people are not
Yeah.
happy. So with
Yeah.
your vast experience in the restaurant industry, hospitality, restaurant,
Yeah.
what's going to happen there? Do you see? I mean, so many people are suffering right now. People have gone
Well,
bankrupt. They're not be able to reopen, or they have reopened,
right.
but they're not getting enough cash flow in to sustain themselves. Where do you see opportunity there?
Yeah. Well, so your question about restaurants ties to any business
Yeah.
whatsoever, right? So the real answer, I think, to your question of what's the opportunity in business at this point is to actually look at the structure. So we'll go to restaurants in just a second, but to look at the strategy, the structure, and the culture of our existing business and what needs to change. So as an example, we do a lot of work in the upscale fine dining world, full service world. Well, that depends on a full dining room, which isn't going to happen in COVID. That depends on turning that dining room 2 or 3 times a night or a shift. That's not going to happen in COVID. So literally we take, okay, here's our culture, here's our brand. We've got a big kitchen, it's clean. We've got lots of food in the walk-ins. We have an empty dining room that's going to stay empty.
Yes.
Some of the market in that world just went, we don't know who we are, we can't be who we are, we're done. And they shut down and die. The smart guy, well, and that's one choice. And it's not for me to say, is that wise or not wise? That's a decision. I was about to go there. Without the judgment, right? Lose the judgment. Here's the choice. For some people, that might be the right decision. For others, what a lot of our clients actually did was, okay, we had 40 items on the menu. We depended on people sitting down in the dining room. Let's get rid of the 40 items. What do we have in the refrigerators, walk-ins, we call them, that we could make sandwiches that could be picked up, or picnics, or dinner at home.
Yes.
That people can pick up at the door or deliver. And in 3 days, they redesign their menu. They go from 40 items to 5. They go from sit-down china and tablecloths to carry-out product and delivery product. They turn servers into delivery people.
Yeah.
Teach them how to create a brand experience delivering food to your door, Reg, right? With a smile on their face. And even though I have a mask over my mouth and you can't see my smile, You can hear my smile and my tone of voice. You can see it in the crinkles of my eyes,
Right.
crow's feet of my eyes. You can see it in my body language. And we end up, I've got many clients actually that are up in revenue by changing their concept from dining room to delivery and carry out, and others that just shut down and went out of business.
Example, Rudy, I like that. And then if you do that and you've still got the space with the original restaurant, you could repurpose that space as well and do other things with it.
Exactly.
I think there's an opportunity there, Rudy. Someone else I was talking to about this a couple of months ago, where they were saying there was an opportunity not only to provide that delivery experience, but people from the restaurant then set up your home or the dining experience at home like the restaurant.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And bring
One
it to
of
the
our 100%. So another example of this is we have some clients in the retail world, and very similar. They took in retail, which just has nosedived, right? Okay, what the good news is we can go online and look at all of the online purchasing and delivery and stuff. God bless us if we have Amazon stock, right? Of the ability for delivery. However, even more than that is bundling. So I've got one client as an example that's gone out to the other neighborhood shops that are have maintained themselves, been able to stay alive, and actually, similar to a restaurant, created a bundled experience of, hey, with this outfit or with this product, you could get these two other products. And as opposed to going to Amazon to a general site, so I can actually do local retail business within my community. And we've bundled products with like brands, and we'll deliver it to you. So they've gone to a website, web access, collective within a community, shared values, keeping the money in the community, expanding, and 3 different companies that are doing similar process in 3 different countries. Those guys are 40% up in the midst of COVID.
Wow. I think you've given some really good examples there of where opportunity lies. With the time that we've got, I want to get into a couple of other areas based on some of your books and articles. There's a key statement in one of them where you talk about behavior equals data, and everything is trackable. Could you tell us about how behavior equals data?
Sure, absolutely. So communication with performance in mind is one of our other action steps. So knowing who we are, behavior-based communication is another one of the tools that we install. So for instance, we will actually share a tool set. We've looked at brain physiology, MRI technology. We've looked at Gestalt psychology and cognitive behaviorism, and bundled a set of tools for communication, for instance, that set up trackable performance. So that doesn't mean that everybody sounds like a robot speaking company speak. What it does mean, for example, is we get accountability by making I statements. Instead of talking about you and them and they, it's like, here's what I can do in this moment. What I'm feeling in the moment. Here's how I'm going to use these values. I wonder what's true for each of us to take values and put them into action. Treating each other with dignity and respect. Paying attention to my tone of voice, my body language, my word choice. So if I'm accountable for my attitude and actions, then if rather than calling you a name, I'm going to say, okay, here's a better example. Instead of saying good attitude, which is nice attitude, that's a compliment, I'm going to actually break the behavior down to say, well, what construes good attitude? Oh, you make direct eye contact. Or in the East, you don't make direct eye contact, right? There's a smile on my face. I enter the door and I bow. Or I reach out with my elbow to do an elbow bump in COVID.
Is that what you're measuring? Is that what you're referring to as the data or what's measurable?
Yes. So I make eye contact or I don't. I smile or I don't. I ask, what can I do to be of support, or I don't. Data versus meaning making. So a meaning making or a story would be, what a jerk, versus, well, dude, to shift your behavior. Here's another example. Obviously, you don't care about your job, versus, here's some data. In the last week, you've been late 15 minutes. You've never been late before. What's changing? What's changed? So you're a jerk, you don't care, is going to create a fight. The data, you've been late by 15 minutes the last three days. What's going on? That creates connection. There's no debate. Now we can figure out how to solve this issue or move on. However, you don't care about your job or you're such a jerk, all that does is create drama.
That's right.
I need to create decisions to move my company at speed, being nimble. That drama doesn't help. So we're going to so another example would be, there are going to be multiple truths. Reg, you live in Dubai. I don't, right? I live in the US. So some of what's happening in the US is not going to be true or common to you in Dubai. Your truth is not mine. By asking what's true for each of us allows us to actually build, as opposed to your truth is stupid, right? Obviously, you don't get it, right? The examples in the US currently about our statues of Confederacy, good or bad, wrong question. It's like, what is true? And there are multiple truths. How do we hold those multiples to get to a solution? Not always simple. However, that's the real question.
Love it. Yeah, I think that's good. Rudy, I know you've published a lot of books. I think 5+ books, and I don't have a couple.
I've been the co-author in 5. Yeah.
Yeah, and but one of them is a leadership cookbook.
Yes.
Talk us through that. I don't have the cover to show our viewers. So what is the Leadership Cookbook?
Well, the Leadership Cookbook was, so I started my company opening restaurants, growing chains, and then that led us to doing turnarounds as well. So, and we've taken that hospitality speed of delivery of restaurants into now 11 different industries in 6 different countries around the world. The Leadership Cookbook is a play on words from the world of hospitality and food service. So, and there's a chapter in each chapter is basically looking at leadership as a recipe. So doesn't matter what the industry is. What if there's a recipe for leadership the same way there's a recipe for couscous?
Yeah.
Right?
Get it, yeah.
And so how do we communicate? How do we hire? How do we delegate?
Yeah.
How do we hold the purpose and the vision of our company to move our team, regardless of our exit strategy? Those are some.
I love the concept. It's a winning title.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
I like the leadership cookbook, especially with the ingredients. So as we come towards the end of our interview, and hopefully one of many for the future, is, you know, with all your vast experience, your wisdom of working with so many clients in different parts of the world. Well, you know, those ingredients that you're talking about, outside of everything we've discussed so far, you know, I always believe that with wisdom comes things that we know based on a life experience. and there's things that we clearly know that we don't know. Okay, so what could you leave our viewers with based on your wisdom, your life journey, your experience of things you absolutely know that that you haven't shared so far in this interview?
Uh, well, to play with you a little bit, the thing I absolutely know to be true and I know must be pursued is that I don't know everything and I need to keep asking, what the hell is it I'm missing? What have I just screwed up in this interview with alluding to? And I'm so taken with you basing in Dubai and working in all through Africa and the Middle East and Europe. And here I am predominantly in the US working in South America and Western Europe. I'm intrigued with what is it I don't know and how do I possibly keep learning, keep being ignorant enough to say I want more. So that's, dare I play with you too much? That's the thing I know. First,
That's a good answer.
second,
I haven't had anybody say that to me so far, so that's a good one.
and the other
Secondly,
is,
yeah.
and the other is work on purpose.
Yeah.
Celebrate that bigger reason for, and investigate what is it I provide through all the jobs I've ever done. Is there a common thread? Keep doing that, right? How do I make the world a better place? How do I be a better human being? That's the other piece.
I was going to bring this interview to an end, but now something else has popped in my head, Rudy. When we talk about purpose and passion, could you get to a point where passion can become an obsession? And is that dangerous?
Anything out of balance is out of balance. So the interesting piece is, to me, I love your question. Passion is a huge driver. And so how maybe this ties back to what I just said about keep learning. If my passion takes me to the place of being blind, that's not going to be so good, right? So I want to be conscious until I'm not. So in flow, you and I both know, and a lot of our clients know about the concept of flow. I want to be in flow until I'm not. There's a really cool model that was developed way back by Socrates and Plato called the learning cycle, right? Unconscious competence. I want to be unconsciously competent. I want to be so masterful, so in flow that I'm not thinking, I'm just being, until I get out of balance. And the second I lose that flow, I want to be conscious enough to go, what did I miss? How did I, in chaos, how did I just, my tone of voice just bit this person? My word choice just bit this person, hurt somebody, didn't need to hurt, back up, re-gauge, get back in balance, go again, right? Or I wasn't as acutely aware of this fiscal issue as I could have been. Wake up, what did I learn? Take it to the next level and go back into flow. It's that journey of, without going on too long, skiing, sailing, climbing, golf, these lifelong sports that keep me learning and evolving are really great metaphor. I'll stop there. I feel like I'm rambling on you.
Yeah, it's good. Love it. And when it comes to Rudy and Miick family, you know, for the next 10 years, what does that look like? What's important to you? Let's say we're sitting down December 31st, 2030, 10 years and a bit has gone past. What are you sharing?
I would like to, well, what we're actively working on to have in place is a global community that is awake that is looking at multiple truths. Well, let me back up. I think actually that the world of business has the option and the opportunity to connect global communities in values-driven ways. And without sounding too idealistic,
Yes.
it's my great hope 20 years from now, we're going to look back at the ability through this kind of technology to share tools, to share values, to share with companies the ways that we can be resonant, treating each other with dignity and respect, celebrating the uniquenesses of culture in Dubai versus culture in Georgia, United States, or California, United States, or England, or anywhere in the UK, that we're actually more connected than less, that we're more profitable than less, that we are interested and excited in learning more about each other as one community, not 200 communities.
I love that. I love the vision. That's quite deep. I can imagine. Can you imagine if we started all over again around the world? We had value-based countries. So if anybody, trust is important. That's the trust country. If you want corruption, it's over there. Off you go, everyone.
Dude, you just put my rambling paragraphs into one sentence. You got it. That is my hope. That is what, it's what you and I talk about actually one-on-one. Certainly what our team talks about now and moving into the future. How do we provide communities and countries, states, nations, people, families, the tool sets to actually create global community in that way, values driven, and we are way more one than not. So
beautiful. I think that's a great time to we'll pause there. It's not the end, it's just pause, to be continued. For those who are still watching all the way through to the end, thank you very much. Don't forget to go to the description area. You'll find out all about Rudy's company, his personal profile. You can connect with him. Hit the like button, helps the algorithm to reach more people. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. And don't forget to watch some of the other show series that we have. Rudy, thank you once again. And we'll do this again shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Reg. I am just pleased beyond words to be on your show. Thank you. Be well.
Thank you.